Thank you so much for being here. If this goes right, this is going to be Helen Hayes, Orson Welles, Sinclair Lewis's Arrowsmith, which is about science, medicine, and love gone bad. And the game is going to be Final Fantasy VII. Among its claims to fame are it's the game that made Robert Pattinson cry. Again, thanks for being here. Wish us luck. Again, thanks so much for being here. Begin by simply listening.
No!
Slow down
The animals!
and see just how peaceful today can
Animals? Help! Dapper! Where's Dapper? Dapper is gone! Dapper is gone! Dapper is gone! Dapper! I didn't... Dapper! Dapper!
Quiet places, remember.
Help! Be wet! We're too wet! I'm too wet! Ow! Are you okay, Ethan? Yes, I'm
Beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it is the year 10,191. The known universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, my father. In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange, the spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. The Spacing Guild and its navigators, who the spice has mutated over 4,000 years, use the orange spice gas, which gives them the ability to fold space. That is, travel to any part of the universe without moving. Oh yes. I forgot to tell you. The spice exists on only one planet in the entire universe. A desolate, dry planet with vast deserts. Hidden away within the rocks of these deserts are people known as the Fremen, who have long held a prophecy true freedom.
Animals!
The planet is Arrakis, also known as June.
The 30th author, Mr. Sinclair Lewis, was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. 8 years ago, Arrowsmith was made into a motion picture. The star of that picture was Miss Helen Hayes. She is here tonight to play in the Campbell Playhouse the same...
The makers of Campbell Soup present the Campbell Playhouse. Orson Welles, producer.
Good evening. This is Orson Welles. For centuries, the heroes of our popular tales have been killers, outlaws, soldiers, knights in armor, warrior kings. Only recently, within the memory of most of you who are listening tonight, has the healer become a hero. The man who is skillful in making people whole instead of cutting them up. The man who strives to persevere like problems, destroy it. Tonight's story is one of the first of the recent series of books, plays, and films about men of medicine. In 1930, its author, Mr. Sinclair Lewis, was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. 8 years ago, Arrowsmith was made into a motion picture. The star of that picture was Miss Helen Hayes. She is here tonight to play in the Campbell Playhouse the same role as she created on the screen. It would be an impertinence for me to attempt any sort of an introduction. It's one of the greatest and most versatile actresses of our time. And I needn't tell you how proud and happy my sponsor and I and all of us in the Campbell Playhouse are in having her with us tonight. But just now, I'd like you to hear a word from Ernest Chappell.
It was later revealed that the terrible disaster had been caused by a T-virus, a mutagenic...
I think you'll agree that when women buy far more of one soup than of any other, that soup must have something very special about it. Such a soup is Campbell's tomato. It has a flavor that good home cooks and professional chefs agree has never been equaled. This magic flavor is the result of a recipe perfected by Campbell chefs and painstakingly followed at every step. It calls for Campbell's own pedigreed tomatoes, big, firm, luscious beauties developed specially to give glorious color and grand flavor to this most popular of all soups. Their bright, tangy, invigorating goodness is skillfully blended with fine table butter and gentle seasoning to make a tomato soup that almost everybody likes. How often do you have this outstanding favorite soup at your house? Why not look over your soup supply and be sure of having Campbell's tomato soup on hand for this weekend? And now for tonight's story. The Campbell Playhouse presents Arrowsmith, starring Helen Hayes and Orson Welles.
Dr. Martin Arrowsmith, in the name of His Majesty, King Gustav of Sweden, and on behalf of the honored members of the Nobel Prize Committee, it is my privilege to welcome you to the eminent fellowship of those who, in the realms of science, art, and literature, have rendered distinguished service to the preservation and betterment of humankind. In recognition, therefore, of
The Columbia Network takes pride in presenting Orson Welles in the first production of a unique new summer series by the Mercury Theater on the Air.
I have the honor to present
Martin Arrowsmith.
Something very special about it. Such a soup is Campbell's tomato. It has a flavor that good home cooks and professional chefs agree has never been equaled. This magic flavor is the result of a recipe perfected by Campbell's chefs and painstakingly followed at every step. It calls for Campbell's own pedigreed tomatoes, big, firm, luscious beauties developed specially to give glorious color and grand flavor to this most popular of all soups. Their bright, tangy, invigorating goodness is skillfully blended with fine table butter and gentle seasoning to make a tomato soup that almost everybody likes. How often do you have this outstanding favorite soup at your house? Why not look over your soup supply and be sure of having Campbell's tomato soup on hand for this weekend? And now for tonight's story. The Campbell Playhouse presents Arrowsmith, starring Helen Hayes and Orson Welles.
Dr. Martin Arrowsmith, in the name of His Majesty, King Gustav of Sweden, and on behalf of the honored members of the Nobel Prize Committee, it is my privilege to welcome you to the eminent fellowship of those who, in the realms of science, art, and literature, have rendered distinguished service to the preservation and betterment of humankind. In recognition, therefore, of your brilliant achievement in the fields of bacteriology and physical chemistry, and your unswerving devotion to the tenets of pure science, I have the honor to present to you Martin Arrowsmith.
Martin Arrowsmith. That's my name. On all sides of me sit leading men of science. Looking down at me, I recognize some of their faces. That man on the aisle to the right and the one just in back of him, last year's chemistry award. This is the longest walk I can remember, from my seat in the back of the hall down to this platform. A 21-year walk. I started it with two others, with Leora and Dr. Gottlieb. Now I'm finishing it, alone. I started it 21 years ago, one September evening, in the chemistry lab at Winnemac. The class stood very still, I remember, not too close. An assistant holding a guinea pig by its legs. Dr. Gottlieb dipped his hand in the bichloride solution and shook them. A quick shake, fingers down, like the fingers of the pianist above the keys. Took a hypodermic needle from the instrument bass and lifted the test tube.
I'm sure that in the bottom of the tumbler there was cotton to keep the tubes from being broken. I cannot advise breaking tubes of anthracite germs and afterwards getting the hands into the culture. You might merely get anthrax boils, or you might die as young. I shall now inoculate the second guinea pig, and the class will be dismissed.
Dr. Gottlieb. Dr. Gottlieb, sir? Yes? Oh, Professor Gottlieb. My name is Arrowsmith, Martin Arrowsmith. I'm a medical freshman in Winnemac, PA. I'd like awfully to take bacteriology this fall instead of next year. See, I've had a lot of chemistry.
No, it is not time for you.
Oh, I know I could do it now, Professor.
What you say your name is?
Arrowsmith, sir.
Well, Arrowsmith, have you taken physical chemistry?
No, sir, but I did pretty well in organic.
Organic chemistry, puzzle chemistry, stink chemistry, drugstore chemistry. Physical chemistry is power. It is exactness, it is life. But organic chemistry, that is a trade for pot washers. No, you are too young. Come back in a year, Arrowsmith.
That year was a time of waiting. I took the first year medical courses and passed them. I learned the proper sugar-coated pills and phrases to comfort patients with while you estimated how much you could charge them. Most of the professors at Winnemac weren't teaching science. They were simply preparing us for a trade. And that was all most of the students wanted. Knowledge that they could cash in on. They didn't talk about saving lives, but about losing cases, losing dollars. My second year, I took Dr. Gottlieb's bacteriology course, and that winter I spent more time with guinea pigs, mice, and rats than with people. I lived in a world of test tubes, filled with watery serum or deadly bacilli of roaring Bunsen flames and steaming sterilizers.
Hello, Arrowsmith.
Oh, hello, Professor Gottlieb.
You are working late tonight. Let me see your slide.
Sure.
Arrowsmith, you have craftsmanship.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, there is an art in science for a few. I see you already, and I watched you in the lab before. Let me see your notes.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps next thing you would like to try trypanosomes of sleeping sickness.
Oh, yes, sir. I've been
They're very, very interesting and very ticklish to handle. It's quite a nice disease. In some villages in Africa, 50% of the people have it, and it is invariably fatal. Notes are not bad, but they can still be more complete. Arrowsmith, the most important part of living is not the living, but pondering upon it. The most important part of experimentation is not doing the experiment, but making notes. Very accurate notes.
Well, I'm trying to do better with my notes, Professor. I want to do research like you, Professor Gottlieb. You've accomplished so much. The whole world knows what you've done.
No, I have done nothing except be unpleasant to people that claim too much. But I have dreams of real discovery someday, and for that I need help. You see, Arrowsmith, not 5 times in 5 years do I have a student who understands craftsmanship and precision and maybe some peak imagination in hypotheses. I think perhaps you may one day be such a student, and perhaps we can help each other, you and I. So, now it's midnight. I would be pleased if you should come to my room and have a little sandwich, Arrowsmith, and we can talk some more.
Dr. Gottlieb appointed me as student laboratory assistant. I felt very important. One day, in April, I went over to the Zenith Hospital for a strain of bacillus from a patient.
Can I help you?
I'm Dr. Gottlieb's assistant. I'm looking for Dr. Swenson's patient, Ward D, number 17.
The second floor, third door to the right.
In the passage, there was a young probationer on her knees on the floor. Her yellow hair had fallen over her eyes, and her green and white uniform was as grubby as her pail of scrub water.
Hey, would you walk over on this side, please? I'm still scrubbing over there.
Nurse, I want to find Ward D.
Do you?
I do. I'm sorry to interrupt your work, but it's awfully important.
Well, it isn't. The superintendent of nurses put me in scrubbing. You aren't ever supposed to scrub floors, you know. So she caught me smoking a cigarette. He's no terror. If she found a child like you wandering around here, she'd drag you off by the ear.
It's my impression that even probationers learn that the first duty of a nurse is to stand when addressing a doctor. I'd like to find Ward D to take a strain of a very dangerous microbe, and if you'll kindly direct me to...
I'm sorry. I've been getting fresh again. I didn't mean to be rude. I was just... Scrubbing makes me bad-tempered. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but you do seem so young for a doctor.
I'm not. I'm a medical student. I was showing off.
So was I. Ouch, I'm so stiff.
Yeah, let me help you.
Thanks.
Pretty hard, this training for nursing, I guess.
Not so awful. But it's about as romantic as being a hired girl. That's what we call them in Dakota.
I come from Dakota?
I come from the most enterprising town in the entire state of North Dakota. Wheatsylvania, it's called. It has 362 inhabitants. Are you in the U medical school?
Yeah, I'm a junior in Mohalis.
I'll bet you're good.
I don't know. I'm not much of a medic, really. I like the lab side. I think I'll be a bacteriologist. I'm not much for the bedside bandit.
I'm glad you're not. We get it in here plenty. You ought to hear some of the doctors. But are the sweetest old pussies with their patients, the way they bawl off the nurses. But lads, now they seem sort of real, what I've seen of them. I don't suppose you can bluff a bacteria. What is a bacterium?
No, they're... Say, how do they call you?
Me? Oh, it's an idiotic name. Leora Tozer.
What's the matter with Leora? It's fine.
Do you really think so?
Say, when you get away from the hospital for dinner, would you go out with me? Say, tonight?
What?
Please.
All right.
We'll go to the Grand.
Oh, no, that's terribly expensive unless you're awfully rich. You aren't, are you?
I'm not. I just enough money to get through medical school, but I'd awfully like to show you.
Let's go to the Bijou. It's a nice place and it isn't expensive, and they got a funny machine there. When you drop nickels in, it plays brassy kind of tunes like a merry-go-round. Gee, I'm glad you're so crazy about your lab work because, well, everybody was perfectly sane where I came from. I got awful tired of being crazy all alone.
Even with the best of them, research has been largely a matter of trial and error. The empirical method is called. You try to establish a general law. You can predict what will happen the next time, the time after that. And that's where Gottlieb leaves all these detailed, grubbing, machine-made researches. See what I mean?
Yes, I think I do. Anyway, I get the way you feel about him. You don't have to shout so, you know.
Oh, it's fresh shouting. I didn't mean to. Only when I get to thinking about the way most of these profs don't even know what Gottlieb's up to, the way those idiots don't even see the relation of his work on the synthesis of antibodies, the discoveries of Arrhenia's genes. Leora, hope I'm not boring you.
I'm loving it.
I get so technical and so noisy. You didn't even stop me and tell me I ought to have better manners.
I don't see anything wrong with your manners.
Don't you really?
Has someone been trying to bring you up?
Yeah, but not with any success.
Listen, I like having you trust me. I'm not earnest, and I haven't any brains whatever. But I do love it when my men think I'm intelligent enough to hear what they really
You don't
think.
have to tell me about yourself. I've always known you, Leora. I'm not going to let you go no matter what. You're going to marry me.
Yes, I guess I am.
At the end of my medical course, Leora and I were married at the City Hall, Zenith.
You're mine now, darling. I warn you, it isn't going to be a bit of use of you ever looking at any other woman again. I'd tear her eyes out. Oh, you needn't think so well of yourself.
I don't, Leora.
You'll be happy with me because you can bully me. Because I'll tag after you the way no one else ever would. I'm stupid and ordinary.
Oh, Leora.
Oh, yes, I am. But I worship you. I know your work's more important than I am. Maybe more important than you are. More... Oh, Martin, I do love you so.
We lived at Zenith Hospital. Or I did. She lived out of town. I saw her as often as I could, but I didn't go near Dr. Gottlieb. The old man never said anything, but I remember the way he shook his head when he looked over the notes on my last half-hearted experiments. And my duties as an intern kept me too busy to do much regretting. I saw Gottlieb once more before I left Zenith. One night I was off duty. Leora and I were walking home from the movies, and ahead of us the tall, stooped figure of a man appeared coming towards us slowly down the street, under the street lamp. Suddenly saw his face.
Martin, you remember me?
Dr. Gottlieb. Of course I remember you.
How is everything now?
Everything's fine. I mean, I'm getting along, I guess. Dr. Gottlieb, I want you to meet my wife, Mrs. Addison.
Dr. Gottlieb, I'm glad to know you.
Thank you. Your husband, he was a good chaser of little bugs. Sometime, Mrs. Arrowsmith, make him remember.
Yes, Doctor, I will.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Dr. Gottlieb.
So that's your Dr. Gottlieb.
Yeah. Say, Leora, how did he strike you?
I think he's the greatest man I've ever seen. I don't know how I know, but he is. I wish we were going to see him again. He's the first man I ever laid eyes on that I'd leave you for, Martin, if you wanted me. He's always like a sword. No, he's like a brain walking. Oh, and he looks so wretched. I wanted to cry. I'd black his shoes, Martin.
So would I, Leora. But we didn't see Dr. Gottlieb again before we left Zenith. Leora's family wanted us to come to their town in Dakota, and I finished my training. They offered to finance me while I started my practice. So soon after we arrived, they held a family council with Mrs. Tozer presiding.
Nice idea, Martin. Why can't we fix you up an office out in the barn? It'd be so handy to the house for you to get to meals on time. You could keep an eye on the house.
The barn? I don't think you understand, Mother Tozer.
Why, yes, to the old harness room. It's partly sealed, and we could put in some nice tar paper or even
Mother Tozer, what the dickens do you think I'm planning to do? I'm not a hired man in a livery stable or a kid looking for a place to put his bird's eggs. I was thinking of opening an office as a physician.
Yeah, but you aren't much of a physician yet. You're just getting your toes in.
darn good physician, Bert.
Now look here, Mark. As we're putting up the money, I don't want to be a tightwad, but after all, a dollar is a dollar. If we furnish the dough, we've got to decide the best way to spend it. Isn't that so, Pop?
Look, Father, I want you to lend us $1,000 outright. Use as we see fit.
$1,000?
We'll pay you 6%. No, we won't. We'll pay 5. That's enough.
The mortgage is bringing 6, 7, and 8.
5's enough. And we want our own say, absolute, as to how we use it. To fix up an office or anything else.
Now, Leo, you're crazy. I suppose we'll have to lend you some money, but you'll blame well come to us for it from time to time. And you'll blame well take our advice.
Bertie.
And the barn's plenty good enough.
Bertie, I know what we'll do. You seem to have the barn in your brain. You move your old bank there, and Martin will take the bank building for his office.
Now, there's no
sense to you two showing off and trying to be smart.
Either you do what I say, just exactly what I say, or Martin and I take the first train back to Zenith, and I mean it. Plenty of places open from there with a big salary, so we won't have to be dependent on anybody.
Well, now, Ori, don't take it that way.
Well, do we get our $1,000, or do we go back to Zenith?
Leora won out. I got my office. It was in a rickety building near the station. We nailed a new sign on the door. On it were gold letters.
Martin Arrowsmith, M.D. Gee, Martin, it looks grand. And it's fun having a place all your own, isn't it?
Yeah. I wish the patients would start coming in. I kind of expected a few of them today.
You don't know this town. The farmers will watch that sign until the shine's all off, and then one of them will maybe have the courage to try the new doctor.
Yeah, what am I going to do, just sit here and wait?
Come over here, Martin. I'll show you what you're going to do. See this old box?
No.
Well, here's an auger I swiped from home. You're going to bore holes in that box just big enough to hold test tubes, and I'm rigging up an oven contraption for a sterilizer.
You figured all that out for me?
No, not for you. For an old man who believes in you.
My first patient had an ulcerated tooth. I pulled it. The second had run a fish hook in his finger. I cauterized the wound. Both patients lived. I expected a stream of patients from then on. I even made a first installment on a Ford car. Then I was awakened one morning at 3 o'clock.
Martin, wake up. Quick, it's the telephone.
Right, just think. Hello? Hello? Yes, this is Doctor speaking. Henry Novak? Leopolis Road. Yeah. See. Since last night? All right, I'll drive right over. Mr. Novak.
Doctor, come in. Yes, that's right. This way, Doctor. The little one is breathing
Now,
bad.
Novak, quickly. The baby. Baby, open your mouth. That's a good girl. Give me your hand.
Here's water, Doctor.
All right.
How is she?
Come over here, Novak. Child's pretty sick. Looks like diphtheria. Brought some antitoxin. We'll inject it.
Yes, Doctor. She very sick.
I'm afraid so. Give us some hot clothes, towels, napkins, anything. This room ought to be moist to keep water boiling in that stove.
All right, Doctor. I do everything you say, just so you save her.
There now. We'll inject. Towel. Towel.
Here's some towels, Doctor.
Wrap her up. Sit that side.
Doctor.
Yep. Yes, what?
Doctor. What's wrong? Doctor, she's so still suddenly. Doctor!
Leora, it was my fault.
Martin, don't.
I should have operated. I should have operated. She'd be all right now. Operate. Did the wrong thing.
You did all you could, Martin. Probably all anyone could do. They called you too late that time.
I'll never practice medicine again. I'll never...
Stop saying those things. It'll be different in the morning.
No, it's no use. I'm through. I'm no good. I can't face people in this town when they know about it. Through.
Martin.
I'm through.
Martin, listen to me. Do you really think you're the only doctor that ever lost a patient? You did your best. Now get to the street, Martin.
Well, I did get over it. In a couple of years, I built up a pretty fair practice at Wheat, Sylvania. I became a director of Bert Tozer's bank. was a good life in a way. In the summer, Leora and I drove over to Pony River for picnic suppers and for swimming. In autumn, there was duck hunting, the winter sleigh rides and socials. Then one day, my 4th year there, Sundelius, the great scientist and plague fighter, came to Minneapolis to lecture, and I made the 60-mile trip to hear him. After the lecture, I waited to talk to him. There were things I wanted to ask him. He invited me to a beer garden.
How did you like my lecture?
Well, I liked it fine, Dr. Sundelius.
Oh, it's so hot tonight. I've been lecturing 9 times a week, Des Moines, for George, LaCrosse, Algernon, and I forget. Was it all right, really?
Honestly, I've never enjoyed anything so much in my life.
Arrowsmith, they hated my lecture, but you make me feel like a prophet. Come, have another drink.
All right.
As a hygienist, I war on alcohol. In excessive quantities, it's almost as bad as ice cream soda. But as one is fond of talking, I find a nice long glass of lager a great solvent for human idiocy.
I remember that.
Now then, my friend, what do you wish to know?
I'll tell you, Doctor, I'd like you to tell me, do they have city health bureaus in Europe?
They do. They are only less ineffectual than our own. See that girl at the table over there?
Yes. What about it?
What ankles, what shoulders.
And
This is good beer, Arrowsmith. Have some more. Lecturing. Such nonsense. I would give it up. I'm wearing dress clothes on a night like this, too.
Doctor, do you know Dr. Gottlieb?
Gottlieb, I should say I know him. He's now at the Institute of McGurk. Gottlieb has done some great experiments, great. Gottlieb would not sit here bawling like me, no. Gottlieb sits home and works. Makes me look like a circus clown. He shows me what a fool I am. He is the spirit of science. He is the leader in our fight to push diseases off the earth.
He wanted me to work with him once. Yeah, I guess that's what I should have done. Not just tinkered a lot of worn-out bodies.
Someday, my dear young fellow, instead of peddling pills, maybe you will follow me at Gottlieb. Yes, it's one and the same. We scientists, we must work together to make a new world. Good world for men to live in. Hey, waiter! Bring another beer.
That winter, I did some experiments on the relation of the molluscan production to the age of culture. My findings were published in the Journal of Infectious Diseases, and then things began to change for me in Pennsylvania. An epidemic of blackleg broke out among the cattle in Crimson County, and the state veterinarian has been called, but the disease was spreading. With Leora's help, I made a new vaccine in my homemade lab. I injected cattle without charge, and the disease stopped. The veterinaries sent in a complaint to the State Board of Health reporting my interference, and then I discovered that a farmer's wife was a typhoid carrier in a section where the disease was prevalent. I demanded that she be quarantined, and the community rose up in arms about it. A meeting was held demanding my removal, but the quarantine was enforced, and the typhoid, of course, disappeared. Then I made the mistake that finished me in Pennsylvania. 2 farmers' children fell ill. I diagnosed their cases as smallpox and demanded several vaccinations throughout the county. Cases turned out to be chicken pox. After that, life became impossible. In August, Leora and I went to county fair, I remember. On the fairgrounds, I seemed to cause more interest among the farmers than any of the exhibits.
Hey, Doc, come on over and see my miller. It's going back to your smallpox.
Smith, how are you today?
Got a pimple on my chin, Doc. What is it, smallpox?
Taking the doctor.
Yeah, I expect he's not playing enough. He had more smallpox cases lately, have you, Doc?
Yeah, what's your little fingers on that smallpox epidemic in this town?
Here, Mr. Smith, the embroidery work.
Well, you sure go in for fancy diseases, Doc. You ain't found any cholera, have you?
Yeah, looks like I'm licked, Leora. Might as well get out. Nothing more I can do here. Take years before they trust me again.
I'm glad, Martin. You're too good for them here.
I've learned a little something here, even if I failed. I guess I don't know how to handle people, that's all. I could stick it out, and I would. Except that life's short, and I think I'm a good worker in some ways. Gottlieb saw it. Maybe I'll still get a chance.
Where do we go, Martin?
I haven't the slightest idea where I can be useful.
Gee, here it's being married. You're expected to be a pillar of the community. Now I'll have to follow you out on the road and be a hobo. Well, I'm too late to look up a new husband. Martin,
Yeah.
remember that oath Dr. Gottlieb gave you? The first night we were together, you told it to me. Say it again, Martin. Now.
All right, I'll try. I don't know if I can remember it. Tina. God give me unclouded eyes and freedom from hate. God give me quiet and relentless anger against all pretense and all pretentious work and all work left slack and unfinished. God give me a restlessness whereby I may neither sleep nor accept praise till my observed results equal my calculated results, or in pious glee I discover and assault my error. God give me strength to trust in God.
You are listening to the Campbell Playhouse presentation of Arrowsmith, starring Helen Hayes and Orson Welles. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. This is Ernest Chappell welcoming you back to the Campbell Playhouse. In a moment or two, we will resume our presentation of Arrowsmith by Sinclair Lewis, starring Helen Hayes and Orson Welles. This is a play about doctors, and the doctor is one servant of humanity we all know and respect, and in our varying ways, appreciate. Of course, Dr. Arrowsmith is a research man, and the doctor you and I know best is a general practitioner, a family doctor. But both of them work for the greater health and happiness of humanity, one in his laboratory, the other right here in our homes. The family doctor keeps a vigilant eye on the welfare of our children, advises us on their sleep and exercise and their diet. Most doctors, for instance, agree that every boy or girl should have at least a quart of milk each day. In this connection, I'd like to tell you of a pleasant and practical way to give your children more milk. Have cream soup frequently. Nearly every youngster is fond of soup, especially such favorites as Campbell's tomato, or pea, or celery, or asparagus. Simply make them extra nourishing by adding good, wholesome milk instead of water. I'm sure it'll do your heart good to see how children go for any of them, because you know they are getting the good food value of soup and the high nutritional benefits of milk. Let me repeat the soups I mentioned before. Campbell's tomato soup, Campbell's pea soup, Campbell's celery soup, Campbell's asparagus soup. I wish I had the time to describe each of them to you, but I urge you to serve them and find out for yourself how good they are. And remember, when combined with milk, each of them becomes still more nourishing. And now we resume our Campbell Playhouse presentation of Arrowsmith, starring Helen Hayes and Orson Welles.
Through Dr. Gottlieb, I got a position at the McGurk Institute in New York. My laboratory there was the finest I'd ever seen. I had a trained assistant, I had all the apparatus known to research. And in the midst of all this white tile, scientific splendor, Dr. Gottlieb was waiting for me.
Martin.
Oh, Dr. Gottlieb.
Oh, Martin, this is very good. You are near to me. My laboratory is just 3 doors down the
You know
hall.
how grateful I am to you, Dr.
Oh,
Gottlieb.
gratitude, Pa. How is that girl you married?
Oh, she's fine, Doctor.
I have an idea she's good for you, that little girl. Yeah, she'll make you work.
Look here, Dr. Gottlieb. Do you really think I know enough to work here? I want terribly to succeed.
Succeed?
I've heard that word. It is English? Oh, yeah. It is a word that little schoolboys use at the University of Winnemac. It means passing examinations. But, Martin, let us be clear. You know something of laboratory technique. You have heard about these bacilli. You are not a good chemist, and mathematics pretty most terrible. But you have curiosity, and you are stubborn. Therefore, I think you will either make a very good scientist or a very bad one. This is your chance to find out, arrowsmith. I went to work that year trying to produce a more effective antitoxin for treatment of tropical diseases. I fumbled at first. I made vast experiments with no results. I tried again. Day after day, week after week. Once, for a few hours, I thought I'd found something.
Martin, you're home early.
Yeah, yes I am.
I haven't your supper ready, but I'll make it right away. You probably want to get back in a hurry, huh?
No, I'm not going back to lab. Not tonight, Leora. Tell you what, let's go out to dinner and the movies or something.
Martin, what's the matter? Do you suddenly feel that you have to entertain me?
I don't want to go back to lab. I don't ever want to go back.
But Martin, your experiment.
Today I thought I'd made some progress. I took my notes to Dr. Gottlieb. He showed me my mistake. Leora, I'm tired out. In 8 months here at McGurk, I've done nothing. I haven't been worth my keep.
Has the director said anything to you?
No.
Has Dr. Gottlieb?
No, they're all kind and patient. But Leora, they expect me to accomplish something.
But you have, Martin. You're antitoxic. You've almost got it.
Yes, almost. But you can't inoculate people with a serum that's almost right. I just go on forever experimenting and failing every time. I'm beginning to think I've got the habit of failing.
Martin, listen to me. You put that coat back on.
What?
I'm not cooking supper tonight, and I'm not going out to eat with you. You'll go right back to that lab and keep trailing after those little bugs. And you're going to forget about me like you usually do. And when you come home at midnight, there'll be a plate of sandwiches on the table here. And then if you've been real good, you can go to bed. Now go on. Put on your coat.
It was that night I noticed a curious thing almost under my eyes. A flask of cloudy bacteria suddenly cleared. Some unknown organism had destroyed the germs in my culture. So I spent 5 days and 5 nights in the lab. Leora slipped in with sandwiches and coffee and then slipped out again unnoticed. And on the evening of the 5th day, I isolated the germ killers. I called it the X principle. I went out, got drunk, and I slept for 2 days. The 3rd day, I went back to the McGurk Institute. There was a message from Dr. Gottlieb to go and see him. Well, Martin, I have something I must say to you. Mr. McGurk has talked to me. He has heard of this discovery of yours, this X principle. He's very happy. He wishes to establish you here for you a new department of pathology with you as head. What shall I do, Dr. Gottlieb? Shall I accept? No, Martin, I don't think you will. Why not? Shouldn't I? Something sort of bad, well, perhaps not altogether bad, has happened. Bad? Well, what is it? Oh, in a way, it is a pity, Martin, what I have to tell you. You are not the discoverer of the X principle. What? Someone else has done it. I have not. I've searched all literature, and except for Bernstein, not one person has even... Good Lord, Dr. Gottlieb, you mean that all I've done all these months has just been wasted? And I'm a fool. Well, anyway, Dubois of the Pasteur Institute has just now published in the Compte Rendu this report. Is your X principle absolute? Only he calls it bacteriophage. Lord, maybe I ought to care, but... Of course, you could claim to be co-discoverer. You spend the rest of your life fighting to get recognized, or you could forget it and write a nice letter congratulating Dubois and go back to work. I'll go back to work. Nothing else to do. I guess McGurk will trust the new department now. Oh, yeah? There's no doubt. I'll have time to finish my research. Maybe I'll get some points that Dubois hasn't hit on, and I'll publish it to corroborate him. Give me the report, Doctor. I suppose now you're glad that I'm saved from being a success. Well, I ought to be.
It is a sin against my religion that I am not. But I am getting old and you are my friend. I am sorry that you are not to have the fun of being pretentious and successful for a while. Martin, it is nice that you will cooperate, Dubois. That is science. To work and not to care too much if somebody else gets the credit.
So now I threw myself into the task of making a serum to combat all kinds of diseases. I immunized rabbits against pneumonia and found that the immunity spread to other rabbits. Then I injected rats with deadly bubonic germs and produced an immunity to the plague. And my lab became known as the pest house. I practically lived in it. Then one day a visitor came to the institute.
What?
Sundelius!
How are you, my boy?
I have seen you since...
Oh, that night we drank so much lager, huh? I remember. I had to carry you to the hotel.
Well, Doctor, I had a notion it was the other way around.
Yeah? We help each other, huh? Well, what did I tell you, Arrowsmith? You belong in such a place as this, chasing diseases off the earth. They tell me you've made a fine serum.
I'm still making it.
How would you like me to help you, Martin?
You mean?
Oh, no, not here in the laboratory, in the big laboratory, the world. Place where we fight the plague like bubonic. It's now in the island of St. Hubert. Soon it may spread through the West Indies. From there, who knows?
Thanks, Sundelius. I have to finish my experiment. I'm still not sure of my serum. Maybe later.
Oh, Martin, listen to me. You can be sure of your serum only one way, by testing.
I know, but...
Not on guinea pigs, on human beings. My boy. Come with Sundelius to St. Hubert.
I couldn't promise. I have to speak to Dr. Gottlieb.
No, I've spoken to them already. Yes, we've been plotting against you. My boat leaves day after tomorrow. Martin, we'll have such good fun. And maybe we wipe out old Devil Bubonic. Huh?
I'm going with you, Martin.
No, Leora, you're not going with me.
Well, I am.
It's not safe, Leora.
Silly, of course it is. You can shoot your old serum into me, then I'll be absolutely all right. Oh, I have a husband who cures things I have. I'm going to blow in a lot of money on thin dresses. So I bet St. Hubert isn't one bit hotter than Dakota on an Arthur's
Listen,
day.
Leora, darling, listen. I do think the serum will immunize against the plague. You bet I'll be mighty well inject you with it myself, but I don't know. Even if we're practically perfect, there'll always be some people who will protect us. You simply can't go, sweet.
Martin, don't you know I haven't any life outside of you? I might have had, but honestly, I've been glad to let you absorb me. I'm lazy and useless and ignorant, except as maybe I can keep you comfortable. If you were off there, and I didn't know you were all right, or if you died and somebody else cared for your body that I loved so, I'd go mad. I mean it. Can't you see I mean it? I'd go mad. It's just, I'm you, and I've got to be with you. And I will help you, make your serum and everything. You know how often I've helped you. And maybe in St. Hubert, maybe you wouldn't find anybody that could help you, even my little bit. I'll cook and everything.
Darling, don't make it harder for me. It's going to be hard enough in any case.
Martin, don't you dare use those old stuck-up expressions that husbands have been drooling out to wives forever and ever. I'm not a wife, any more than you're a husband. Oh, you're a rotten husband. You neglect me, absolutely. The only time you know what I've got on is when some button slips and then you bawl me out. But I don't care. I'd rather have you than a good husband. And besides, I'm going.
Dr. Gottlieb.
Yeah? Who is it?
Me, Dr. Gottlieb. I've come to say goodbye.
Goodbye?
Yeah.
Oh, that has such a final sound. But perhaps you're right. Perhaps we don't see each other again. Arrowsmith, I am growing old and I have my worries. You are a man and you are a genuine worker now. But don't mind if I give you some advice.
Dr. Gottlieb, no, I don't.
Be sure you don't let anything, not even your own kind heart, spoil your experiment at St. Hubert. Remember to use the serum with only half your patient and keep the others as controls under normal hygienic conditions, but without the serum. Pay no attention to what Sundelius says. He is a great man, but he is not a scientist. So many men, Martin, are kind and neighborly. So few have added to knowledge. You have the chance. You may be the man that ends all plague.
You must have pity, but not for those you see dying. You must have pity for generation after generation yet to come. That is your work, Martin. And whatever God there is, may he bless you.
I promise to do what you say, Doctor.
Well, maybe old Gottlieb will have help too, maybe.
Leora and I sailed the next day from Hoboken. Very late one night, 10 days later, our ship dropped anchor in the harbor of St. Hubert. The island was quarantined, so no one was taken on board. Sondelius, Leora, and I stood alone on the deck. On shore, we spied a few lights. One appeared to be moving toward us, but most of the town was dark. Dark and still.
There! Ahoy there! Golden Girl Commission? Yeah? Good! Ready to take these doors. Come on, give me a hand.
Thanks. You're the court doctor?
No, not exactly. I'm Dr. Stokes in St. Swithin Parish. For all of us, almost everything nowadays. The court doctor died a couple of days ago.
How many bubonic cases you got now?
Lord knows. Maybe 1,000. 10 million rats. So sleepy. Well, we better be going ashore. Here, I'll help you with your bag.
Listen, Leora. You better stay on the ship. You better not come. See? Please don't.
Not come? And me, the secretary and technical assistant of the McGirt Commission? Oh. Martin.
Yes, darling.
Gosh, I'm scared blue.
The next morning, we awoke in a bungalow at the edge of the town. Poor doctor had lived there, but he went out one morning and never came back. After breakfast, we walked down a silent street. House shutters were closed. There was a crying woman and a bewildered child. I remember following an open wagon on which were heaped a dozen stiff bodies. That afternoon, I started to inject, as Gottlieb had instructed me, every other man. Sedelius strapped his wrists, put on high boots, and made ready for his rat crusade.
Today, my friends, I'm Sondelius, Captain General of Rat Killers. If there were no rats, there'd be no bugs carrying bubonic. But I fix them. I just walk into a place and the rats say, here's that old Uncle Gustav. Well, what's the use? And they turn up their toes and die. Well, goodbye.
Hey, Gustav.
Yeah? What is it?
You're not going out, Gustav. You've had an injection of germ. Come on over here.
No, Martin. Not until you give up your experiment. Promise to inject all of these people. Every one of them. I know what Gottlieb told you. Refuse to inoculate part of the people, use them for controls, for guinea pigs. Pay no attention to that wild man Sondelius. He's no scientist. I say to Gottlieb, humanity is more important than science.
Science is for humanity, Gustav, for all humanity, not just these people here.
Please, Sondelius, do as Martin says.
No, Leora. I'll do anything for you, but not that. Well, goodbye, children. I now go out to fight the rats. I shall break all the laws of property. I shall set fire to warehouses. I shall even burn villages. I shall drive out the rats from their hiding places. Then, I shall have my fun. I shall slaughter rats with clubs. I shoot them with guns, poison them with gas, and then when I come back, we drink and we celebrate.
A week later, we found Sondelius. He was lying on the ground. His eyes bloodshot.
Yeah. You had a fine time with the rats here, Caleb. Yeah, you like my new village.
Gustav, what's the trouble? Your eyes, you have a fever.
I think it's got me. Some flea got me. Flea from one of those rats. I was just thinking I'll go and quarantine myself. Yeah, I feel all right. Lord, Martin, I'm weak. Not scared, no.
I'm going to take you home, Gustav. We'll nurse you.
No. I wish you would have seen my nieces, my friend. Martin, Gottlieb is right about these jests of the gods. The best one is the tropics. Gods planned them so beautiful. Flowers and sea and mountains. They made the fruit to grow so well that man need not work, and then they laughed and stuck in volcanoes and snakes and damp heat and the plague.
The nastiest trick they ever played on men was inventing the flea.
Better save your strength, Gustav. Before you throw, I'm gonna get you a serum right now. Tell your captain.
Martin, do not try to fool me. Too late for serum, too late for anything. I'm not afraid to die, Martin, but once more I'd like to see Stockholm and Fifth Avenue on the day the first snow falls. And Holy Week at Severe and one good last drunk, huh? I'm very peaceful, Martin. It hurts some, but life is a good game. Martin, give these poor people a serum. Save all of them. Come on, Martin. Do as I tell you.
Darius became delirious. Early next morning, he died. From that day, I injected everybody who wanted my serum. I threw away my notes. I injected as fast as I could, day and night. The plague gradually diminished. First boat was scheduled to clear quarantine in a few days. My work is almost over. We watched the ship dock from the porch of our bungalow.
Martin, Dr. Stokes was here today.
I think
Yes, there are some new cases at St. Swithin's. He believes it's spreading up there.
I'll leave him a supply of serum before we go.
Go? When are we going?
The Oro. Done all we could, Mrs. Hubert.
Yes. We've done everything but what we came down here to do.
Oh, please, dear, don't bring that up again. Please, you know I couldn't have. You know why?
And what are you going to tell Dr. Gottlieb? That you failed him? That's true, isn't it?
The fact that the plague diminished as soon as I began injecting the serum proves...
Proves nothing, Martin. You know that. Perhaps the epidemic stopped of its own accord. You don't know, and you'll never know until you go through with the experiment. And your last chance is St. Swithin. Darling, let me go with you. Let me help with the injection. You keeping your notes. Please, Martin. Let's finish our job.
I have this place ready for you, Doctor.
All right.
Trees will keep the sun off you. There's a line of natives a quarter of a mile long.
All right, Stokes, let's begin. They are soap and alcohol. The right arm.
Yes, Martin.
Stokes, get your troops in a circle around the grove. We may need them. Two lists. One that I inject, one that I don't.
Right, Doctor. Sergeant, you write the names down as I call them out. Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
Come on! Move up, one at a time!
Every other one here. Every other one on that side.
You're right on there. Now the doctor...
That's it. No, still.
Oh! Damn, no stick.
Maybe. Hope so. Move on.
John Glamus. Take it down, Sergeant. John Glamus. Hold back! Don't crowd! No changing faces, just the guard!
Get your way, Dr. Stokes, and stay with us! Back there! Don't shoot the first man who gets out of line! Now move on one at a time!
All right, that's open now. Come back in an hour after lunch.
Leora. Leora, what's the matter?
Nothing, darling. Just a little tired, I guess.
No wonder, you poor kid. I'm going to take you home and put you to bed.
You'll do no such thing. We're going to finish your experiment. One more day and you work safe. Nothing's going to stop you now.
Well, I'll have Stokes take you down the bungalow.
Nonsense. You'll need him here. I know my way. What's there to be afraid of?
Darling, you're not afraid of anything.
Yes, one thing, Norton. I'd be afraid if anything happened to this experiment. It's so near. And it's our big chance, darling. It's everything we've been working towards. It's our whole lives. Well, I'll be going now.
I'll come down to the house as soon as I finish.
Just one thing, Martin. I forgot my second shot of serum yesterday. Get out your needle, Doctor.
Darling, give me your arm. I love your arm. There.
I love you, Martin. And thanks for bringing me here. Thanks for everything.
You're thanking me. Oh, darling.
But you don't know what it means for someone like me who doesn't amount to so much, getting a chance to be with somebody who does. Oh, Martin, I'm so proud of you and what you've done.
Darling, if there's anything we've accomplished here or anywhere, it's not mine or yours. It's ours together. Say, why are we talking this way to each other? Leora, nothing wrong.
Of course not. It was silly talk, wasn't it? But I wouldn't have missed it. I wouldn't have missed anything, Martin. Not anything in our whole life.
That night, I injected the last native, collected my notes, and Stokes drove me back to the bungalow. On the bed across the folds of torn mosquito netting, I found Leora's body, very frail and very still. I talked to her. I told her everything. I don't know what I said. And that evening I dug a deep pit in the garden and carried her there. A high and windy garden looking toward the sea. I don't remember how I left the island, how I got back to New York, how my notes got published, how I got started working again. I don't remember. And now, I'm standing in this great hall, and I have a scroll of parchment in my hand. I know that the world has just honored my work, and that this is the loneliest day of my life.
You have just been listening to the Campbell Playhouse production of Arrowsmith, starring Helen Hayes and Orson Welles. And here he is, Orson Welles.
Ladies and gentlemen, the road, which is what actors call the theater outside of New York, has had its ups and downs, as you know. The last 2 years, during which Miss Hayes has brought her wonderful performances Victoria and Victoria Regina to 45 cities all over the nation, must definitely be called an up. Miss Hayes concluded her engagement in Victoria only last Saturday, after making theatrical history.
Thank you, Orson.
Very great honor to have her with us tonight, and I'd like you to meet her. And Helen, I'm sure that everyone in the theater and everyone who goes to the theater is curious about your plans for the future. What are you going to do next?
I'm going to take a darn good rest.
With your permission, Miss Hayes, I'll tell our audience what a rest means to you. It means, ladies and gentlemen, going back to being Mrs. Charles MacArthur, taking care of 2 children and a house overlooking the Hudson River at Nyack, New York, and of course, overseeing the family farm in the hills a few miles away. Miss Hayes, am I correctly informed that the MacArthur family even goes so far as to grow its own milk?
Mm-hmm. We do have 4 jerseys. And we hope that by economy and careful management, we can eventually get the cost of our milk down to $1 a quart.
I hope you do, Mrs. MacArthur. And I hope even more that Helen Hayes will very soon be back with another play as fine as Victoria Regina. And in behalf of my sponsors, the makers of Campbell Soup, and all of us in the Campbell Playhouse, I want to thank you for coming here tonight. And now, here's Ernest Chappell.
In a moment or two, Orson Welles will bring us news of next week's story. A little while ago, I spoke of the excellent flavor of Campbell's tomato soup. It is this flavor that has made tomato soup the most popular soup in all the world, more often served and eaten than any other. It is this flavor, too, that accounts for the fact that tomato soup is seldom made at home. You see, the delicious taste of Campbell's tomato soup is so widely known, so well liked, that women have come to feel that making tomato soup at home is a task that they can dispense with. Indeed, women everywhere concede that they cannot match the superb flavor of Campbell's tomato soup. So whether you make soup at home or not, here's one soup you should buy and keep on hand. Your family will like Campbell's tomato soup, and the chances are they'll like to have it often. They'll delight in the sunny, glowing red of it, the racy aroma that steams up from the plate, the smooth texture and fine taste of each spoonful, first to last. Why don't you and your family enjoy this great soup this weekend? Put it on tomorrow's grocery list. Campbell's tomato soup. In tonight's presentation in the Campbell Playhouse, Orson Welles and our guest, Helen Hayes, was heard in the roles of Martin Arrowsmith and Leora. Professor Gottlieb was played by Ray Collins, Sundelius was played by Frank Reddick, Mr. Tozer by Everett Sloan. Al Swenson played Henry Novak, Effie Palmer played Mrs. Tozer, and Carl Frank was Dr. Stokes. Music for the Campbell Playhouse was arranged and conducted by Bernard Herrmann. And now, Orson Welles, will you tell us about next week's show?
Well, next week our story is a classic shocker. The saga of an aeroplane that crashed into the private mountains of a well-mannered Raja whose wickedest word was law, somewhere east of the sun and west of the moon. The Green Goddess, starring Madeleine Carroll, who will be saved from my clutches in the nick of time. Until that fateful hour, on this same station, my sponsor, makers of Campbell Soup, and all of us from the Campbell Playhouse remain obediently yours.
The makers of Campbell Soups join Orson Welles in inviting you to be with us at the Campbell Playhouse next Friday evening to hear The Green Goddess, starring Madeleine Carroll. Meanwhile, if you've enjoyed tonight's Campbell Playhouse presentation, won't you tell your grocer so tomorrow when you order Campbell's tomato soup? This is Ernest Chappell saying thank you and good night.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
That was a fun one. Thank you so much for being here. We begin by simply listening. Slow down and see just how peaceful today can be. Again, thank you for being here. Catch you guys on the flip side. We begin by simply listening, slow down, see just how peaceful today can be. Alright, let's go.
The beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it is the year 10,191. The known universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, my father. In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. The Spacing Guild and its navigators, who the spice has mutated over 4,000 years, use the orange spice gas, which gives them the ability to fold space. That is, travel to any part of the universe without moving. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. The spice exists on only one planet in the entire universe. A desolate, dry planet with vast deserts. Hidden away within the rocks of these deserts are a people known as the Fremen, who have long held a prophecy that a man would come, a Messiah, who would lead them to true freedom. The planet is Arrakis, also known as June.
We've spotted 3 troops of Fremen around the palace, and I've sent Gurney Halleck to meet them. He's not returned yet. Go there and see what's keeping Gurney.
Paul, I have a deep feeling that being here on Dune with these Fremen will reveal something to you. Something you can't even imagine. One that the Fremen were waiting for.
Atreides, the famous
We must rally other Fremen troops. We ought to stand some chance of defeating our Harkonnen enemies.
And they say that the demands are not met within 24 hours. They'll launch a nuclear weapon.
Young pup! How dare you come here?
First,
I'm going to kill you.
Donald Anderson and the president
If you don't,
Kenneth Bailey
I'm going to destroy you.
Secondly, investigate whether or not the terrorists have a gun hand.
Loud and clear. What's the situation, Snake? Looks like the elevator in the back is the only way up. Just as I expected. I have to take the elevator to the surface, but make sure nobody sees you. If you need to, contact me by codec. The frequency is 140.85. When you want to use the codec, push the select button. When we need to contact you, the codec will beep. When you hear that noise, press the select button. The codec's receiver directly stimulates the small bones of your ear. No one but you will be able to hear it.
Got it. Okay, I'm ready to go.
The beginning is a very delicate time.
In these times of the future, man has explored many worlds, traveling through space by the use of the spice. Spice is the most precious substance. It can be found only on one planet in the whole universe. That planet is Arrakis, better known as Dune. It's a dry, desolate planet with vast deserts. There's never a drop of rain on Dune. You are Paul Atreides, son of Duke Leto Atreides. The Harkonnens, longtime enemies of your family, have come on Dune to control the spice production in their brutal way.
This is Snake. Currently clearing.
But the Emperor of the Universe has just allowed you and the Atreides family to go on Dune too. You are determined to use this opportunity to drive the Harkonnens out of Dune with the help of the few natives, the Freemen. The story begins as you've just arrived on Dune, in an empty palace located at a safe distance from the Harkonnen fortresses.
slow down and see just how peaceful today can be. This is Orson Welles, the man who would be Thursday and Street Fighter V. Here we go.
The beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it is the year 10,191. The gnome universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, my father. In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. The Spacing Guild and its navigators, who the spice has mutated over 4,000 years, use the orange spice gas, which gives them the ability to fold space. That is, travel to any part of the universe without moving. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. The spice exists on only one planet in the entire universe. A desolate, dry planet with vast deserts. Hidden away within the rocks of these deserts are a people known as the Fremen, who have long held a prophecy that a man would come, a Messiah, who would lead them to true freedom. The planet is Arrakis, also known as June.
According to the story, that's what the young lady said to the fat man, the fabulously fat, the fantastic, the famous fat man, when he took her to lunch at a fashionable... Do people always recognize you? Does everybody always know who you are? Well, my dear, said Mr. Chesterton. If they don't, they ask. Mr. Chesterton's The Man Who Was Thursday is a little like that. Roughly speaking, it's about anarchists. It was written, remember, in the boom of bomb throwing in those radical, irresponsible days of the nihilists. And roughly speaking, it's a mystery story. It can be guaranteed that you will never guess the solution until you get to the end. It is even feared that you may not guess it then. You may never guess what The Man Who Was Thursday is about, but definitely, if you don't, you'll ask. I am Gabriel Syme. I am the man who was Thursday.
That particular evening, if it is remembered for nothing else, will be remembered in that place for its strange sunset. It looked like the end of the world. It may be remembered by others too, because it marked the first appearance in the place of the second poet of Saffron Park. For a long time, a red-haired revolutionary had reigned without a rival. It was upon the night of the sunset that I, Gabriel Syme, ended his solitude.
Mr. Syme, you say you are a poet of law. I say you are a contradiction in terms. An artist is identical with an anarchist.
Mr. Gregory, it is things going right that is poetical. Our digestions, for instance, going sacredly and silently right. The most poetical thing in the world is not being sick.
Really, Mr. Syme, the examples you choose...
I beg your pardon, Mr. Gregory. I forgot we had abolished all conventions.
You don't expect me to revolutionize society on this law?
Oh, no, I don't, but I suppose that if you were serious about your anarchism, that is exactly what you would do.
Don't you think, then, that I'm serious about my anarchism?
I beg your pardon.
Am I not serious about my anarchism?
I strolled away and left Gregory, but with surprise and with a curious pleasure, I found a red-headed young lady still in my company. It was Rosamond, Gregory's sister.
Mr. Syme, do the people who talk like you and my brother often mean what they say? Do you mean what you say now?
My dear Miss Gregory, when you say thank you for the salt, you mean what you say? No. When you say the world is round, you mean what you say? No, it's quite true, but you don't mean it.
Is he really an anarchist, sir?
Only in that sense I speak of, or if you prefer it, in that nonsense.
He wouldn't really use bombs or that sort of thing.
Good Lord, no. That has to be done anonymously. I strolled with her to a seat in the corner of the garden, and I defended respectability with violence and exaggeration. I grew passionate in my praise of tidiness and propriety. All the time there was a smell of lilac around me, and once I heard, very faintly in some distant street, a barrel organ began to play, and it seemed to me that my heroic words were moving to a tiny tune from under or beyond the world. In the wild events which were to follow, this girl had no part at all. I never saw her again until all my tale was over. And yet in some indescribable way, she kept recurring like a motive in music through all those mad adventures afterwards. And the glory of her strange hair ran like a red thread through those dark and ill-drawn tapestries of the night. For what followed was so improbable that it might well have been a dream. When I left the party and went out into the starlit street, I found Gregory waiting for me.
Mr. Syme.
Mr. Gregory.
This evening you succeeded in doing something rather remarkable. You did something to me that no man has ever succeeded in doing before. You irritated me.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
There is only one way by which that insult can be erased, and that way I choose. I am going at the possible sacrifice of my life and honor to prove to you that you are wrong in what you said.
In what I said?
You said I was not serious about being an anarchist. Mr. Syme, may I ask you to swear by whatever gods or saints your religion involves that you will not reveal what I am now going to tell you to any son of Adam, and especially not to the police? Will you swear that? If you will consent to burden your soul with a vow that you should never make and a knowledge you should never dream about, I will promise you in return...
You will promise me in return...
I will promise you... a very entertaining...
Your offer is far too idiotic to be declined. You say that a poet is always an anarchist. I disagree, but I hope at least that he is always a sportsman. Permit me here and now to swear that as a Christian, and to promise as a good comrade and a fellow artist, that I will not report any of this, whatever it is, to the police. And now, what is it?
I think that we will take a cab.
The cab pulled up before a particularly dreary and greasy beer shop. We seated ourselves in a close and dim sort of bar parlor at a stained wooden table with one wooden leg.
Mr. Syme, if in a few moments this table begins to turn around a little, please don't put it down to the champagne. I don't wish you to do yourself an injustice.
Well, if I'm not drunk, I'm mad, but I trust I can behave like a gentleman in either situation. May I smoke?
Certainly, try one of mine.
I took the cigar and started to light it almost before I had begun. The table at which we were sitting began to revolve, first slowly and then rapidly.
You mustn't mind it, it's kind of screw.
Quite so, a kind of screw. How simple that is. The next moment, we two, with our chairs and tables, shot down to the floor as if the earth had swallowed us. Gregory led me down a low vaulted passage, at the end of which was a heavy iron door.
Who is it? Mr. Joseph Chamberlain.
It was obviously some kind of password. We stepped into a queer steel chamber whose walls were hung with dubious and dreadful shapes, things that looked like the bulbs of iron plants or the eggs of iron birds. They were bombs.
And now, my dear Mr. Syme, now we are quite cozy, so let us talk properly. You said you were quite certain I was not a serious anarchist. Does this place strike you as being serious?
It does seem to have a moral under all of its gaiety, but tell me, the heavy iron door, you cannot pass it without submitting to the humiliation of calling yourself Mr. Chamberlain. You surround yourself with steel instruments which make the place, if I may say so, more impressive than homelike. Why? After taking all this trouble to barricade yourself in the bowels of the earth, do you then parade your whole secret by talking anarchism to every silly woman in Saffron Park?
The answer's simple. When first I became one of the new anarchists, I tried all kinds of respectable disguises. But at last I went in despair to the president of the Central Anarchist Council, who is the greatest man in Europe.
Oh, what's his name?
You wouldn't know it. That is his greatness. He looked at me. You want a safe disguise, do you? I nodded. Why then, dress up as an anarchist, you fool. I took his advice and have never regretted it. I preach blood and murder to those women day and night, and by heaven they would let me wield their perambulator.
You took me in. What do you call this tremendous president of yours?
We call him Sunday. You see, there are 7 members of the Central Anarchist Council, and they are named after the days of the week. He is called Sunday by some of his admirers, Bloody Sunday. It's curious that you should mention the matter, because this very night we've called a meeting to elect a successor to the post of Thursday. And I don't mind telling you that it's almost a settled thing that I am to be Thursday.
Gregory, I gave you a promise before I came to this place. Would you give me, for my own safety, a little promise of the same kind?
Promise?
Yes, a promise. I swore before God that I would not tell your secret to the police. Will you swear by humanity or whatever beastly thing you believe in that you will not tell my secret to the anarchists?
Your secret? Have you got a secret?
Yes, I have a secret. Will you swear?
Yes, I will swear not to tell the anarchists anything you tell me. But look sharp, they'll be here in a couple of minutes.
Well, Gregory, I know how to tell you the truth more shortly. By saying that your expedient of dressing up as an aimless poet is not confined to you or your president. We've known the Dodge for some time at Scotland Yard.
What do you say?
Yes, Gregory. I'm a police detective.
Joseph Chamberlain? Mr. Joseph Chamberlain.
It was repeated twice, and thrice, and then 30 times. And the crowd of Joseph Chamberlains, a solemn thought could be heard, trampling down the corridor. Here are your friends, Gregory.
Comrade Gregory, I suppose this man is the delegate?
The fact is, comrade, I have been specially sent here to see that you show a due observance of Sunday. Gregory, I could see he was in an agony of diplomacy.
Yes, I think it is time we began. The tug is waiting on the river. I move that Comrade Button take the chair.
But first, let me explain about the solar radar system. The white dot in the middle is yours. The red dots are your enemies, and the blue cone shape represents their field of vision.
Be
careful, Snake. The genome soldiers have highly developed senses of hearing and vision due to their gene therapy. Be sure you don't let them see you.
First, I want you to infiltrate the disposal site and look for the DARPA chief.
The DARPA chief was injected with the same GPS transmitting nanomachines as you. He should appear on your radar as a green dot.
Get whatever information you can from him about the terrorists. If he's alive, that is.
Snake, your radar isn't affected by the weather, but if you're discovered by an enemy, you won't be able to use
Gregory
it.
Rose.
Yes.
To not speak it out is the best chance to make it soft and ambiguous.
It's all made from currently
It gives in my mind the impression that the Brotherhood was a very mild affair after all.
strong harmonic resonance, so be careful.
We'll be monitoring your movements by radar, so contact us by codec anytime you want. Got it. I'll call if I'm feeling lonely.
Seriously, Snake, we're here to back you up, so call if you need some information or advice. I'm also in charge of your mission data. Contact me if you want me to record your current status. My frequency is 140.96. It's a dedicated frequency for saving data. Don't forget it.
Remember, except for your binoculars, you're naked. You need to arm yourself with whatever weapons you can find.
I remember. First I'm strip searched by Dr. Naomi here, and then all my weapons are taken away. Imagine yourself in that position.
No! I only make it back in one piece. Maybe I'll let you do a strip search on me.
No, do that, Doctor. By the way, sorry to disappoint you, but I did manage to smuggle out my smokes.
How did you do that?
Much thanks to the shot you gave me to suppress my stomach acid.
Cigarettes? How are those going to help you?
You never know.
Which is founded on love. No, down with love! Which is founded on love. There will be no difficulty about the aims which we shall pursue as a body or
If you want to get in, there's the front door.
As the representative.
It's the fastest way, but there's too much risk of being spotted by the enemy.
I can't just knock on the door past one seat on the left and one on the right. They're armed with 5.56ers and pineapples.
Have we come here for this? Comrades, we line these walls with weapons and bar that door with death. Lest anyone should come and hear Comrade Gregory say to us, be good and you will be happy. Honesty is the best policy and virtue is its own reward. Comrade Gregory has told us we are not the enemies of society, but I say that we are the enemies of society, and so much the worse for society.
I'll let you decide the best COA.
Comrade Gregory,
I'm counting on you, Snake.
He knows as well as I do that I am keeping all my engagements and doing nothing but my duty. I do not mince words, I do not pretend to. We do not want the Supreme Council of Anarchy infecting the mortal mercy. That Gregory and his milk and water methods of the Supreme Council. I would offer myself for election.
Snake, remember what the goal said. The graveyards are full of indispensable men. Snake, you're all alone and surrounded by bad guys. Try to be careful and avoid getting into a fight whenever you can.
You're right. Wow, you know all sorts of great quotes, don't you?
Well, both my parents have been golfed on China, but I was born and raised in America.
And 3 minutes afterwards, Mr. Gabriel Syme of the Secret Police Service is elected to the post of Thursday on the General Council of the Anarchists of Europe. A moment later, I found myself somehow or other face to face with Gregory. And you were a gentleman.
Think about it.
Comrade Thursday, the boat is white.
Comrade Gregory, you kept your word. You're a man of honor, and I thank you.
What do you mean? What did I promise you?
A very entertaining evening.
What's up, Snake?
My name is really Gabriel Syme. I'm not merely a detective who pretends to be a poet. I'm really a poet who has become a detective.
Just because you see an
I come
item
of a
doesn't
family
mean
of
that you always
cranks.
have to get it. If you
One
don't
of my
really
uncles
need
always
it,
walked
think
about without a
twice before you
hat.
stick your neck out. It
And
might not be
another
worth
had
it.
made an unsuccessful attempt to walk about with a hat and nothing else.
You caught Snake?
Being surrounded with every conceivable kind of revolt from infancy, I had to revolt into something, so I revolted into the only thing left, which was
Snake, like
sanity.
Shakespeare said, not
Some months
had,
before that
all
evening in
spent.
Saffron
What our
Park,
desire is
I
got
appeared before
without
a high official in
content.
Scotland
Basically, it
Yard.
means that your desire can
I
get
was
you
led
into
to a
trouble
side
if you're
door.
not careful. That
And
goes for
almost before I
items
knew
too.
what I was doing,
Don't get too greedy or you might
I
be
was
sorry.
suddenly shown into a
Careful
room, the
with it.
abrupt blackness of which startled me like a blaze of light.
What's up, Snake?
You recruit? All right, you're engaged. I really have no experience. No one has any experience.
Snake, in China, they say, you must cross the
Really
river
fit.
before you tell the
Willing,
crocodile
that is
he has bad bread. Do you know
Really?
what that means? It means
I
that
don't
the
know any
wise man
profession in which
avoids
mere
danger
willingness is
first.
the final test.
Use your brain to avoid traps and stay away from the
Aiming
enemy.
you to death. Good day.
Not to fight. Don't let the enemy see you. You didn't waste any time to get spotted, did you?
Where my adventure ultimately led me, I've already told you. At about 1:30 on a February night, I found myself standing on a small top of the silent Thames,
Infiltrate the building in
duly
front.
elected
Look for
Thursday of
someone
the
you
Central
can.
Council of Anarchists. As we came alongside, the great stones of the embankment were big and black
What's up,
and
Snake?
blanked on. I leapt out of the boat up the slimy steps. The tug put off again and turned upstream.
How How's it going, Snake?
And I saw
Have
that
you
there was
gotten
a
used to
man
using the radar yet?
Yeah, it's a great system. Not only can I read the topography, I can monitor the movement of the bad guys, too.
Pretty convenient, huh? It also makes it easy for us to see everything that you're doing.
And his smile was a shock.
Of course.
For it was all
You were my
on one
boyfriend.
side, going
You'd
up the
never
right
be able
cheek
to
and
cheat
down
on
the
me.
left.
Being monitored 24
The
hours
dark
a day.
blonde, deadly
Like hell.
Don't think of it like that. At least you'd never get lost.
There was something unnerving in it. There was the silent river and the
What can I do
silent
for you,
man.
Snake?
And there was the last nightmare touch. That his smile had suddenly went wrong.
Snake, have you ever heard the saying,
Where?
friendly
We can
counsel
just be in
cuts off
time for
many
breakfast.
foes? It
Sunday
means that a
always
little bit of
insists
advice
on
from
an
a
early
friend
breakfast.
can save you a lot of trouble. You should
One
think about
corner
it.
of Lister Square,
If you're in trouble or
they
if you
projected
need
the
some
balcony of a
information about
prosperous but
something,
quiet
please
hotel.
contact Colonel Campbell or someone else,
The balcony
okay?
contained a breakfast table. And round the breakfast table, glowing in the sunlight, were a group of noisy and talkative men, all dressed in the insolence of fashion. Here then
You called, Snake?
was the secret conclave of the European dynamiters.
In my
Then
parents'
I
home
continued to
back,
stare
they
at
say,
them.
if there are more wolves,
I saw something
the
that I
people
hadn't
are
seen
eaten.
before, literally
If there
because
are
it was
more
too large
people,
to see.
the wolves are eaten.
At the nearest end of the
That
balcony,
means the
blocking
side
the
with
great
the
part
greater
of the
numbers
perspective,
is usually the
was the
winner.
back of a great
You're
mountain
badly
of men.
outnumbered, Snake.
I
Try
first thought
not
that
to
the
let
weight of
them
him
see
must
you.
break down the balcony of stone. This man was planned enormously in his original
You called,
proportions.
Snake?
Like a statue, carved deliberately as colossal. His head crowned with white hair, as seen from behind, looked bigger than a head ought to be.
Snake, like
The
Confucius
ears that
said,
stood out from it
the
looked larger
cautious
than
smell
human
from
ears.
air.
His
If you
sense of
proceed
size was so
cautiously,
staggering.
you probably won't make a
When I
big
saw him,
mistake.
all the
Snake,
other
even
figures
after
seemed
you
quite
get used to the
suddenly to
mission,
dwindle and
don't
become
lose your
ghosts.
concentration.
They were still sitting there as before with their flowers and frock coats. But now it looked as if the
What can I
big
do
man
for you, Snake?
was entertaining 5 children to tea. I never thought of asking whether the monstrous man who almost filled and broke the balcony was the great President Sunday, whom the others
In my
stood in awe. I knew it was so.
If
As
there
I
are
walked across
more
the inner room
wolves,
towards
the
the
people are
balcony,
eaten. If there
the
are more
large face
people,
of Sunday
the
grew
wolves are eaten.
larger and
That
larger,
means the
and I
side
was
with the
gripped with
greater
a fear
numbers
that when he was
is
quite
usually
close,
the winner.
the
You're
face would
badly
be too
outnumbered,
big to be
Snake.
possible,
Try not to
that
let
I
them
would
see
scream
you.
aloud. I remember that as a child I would not look at the mask of men in the British Museum.
What can I do for you,
Face
Snake?
and so large. By an effort braver than that of leaping over a cliff, I went to an empty seat at the breakfast table and sat down. That moment,
Snake,
the
listen to what
president was
Little
addressing
T
a man,
says. He who
out
knows
of
that
whose
enough
collar
is
there sprang a
enough
bewildering
will
bush
always
of brown
have
hair
enough.
and beard
Just because
that
you
almost
seem
obscured
idle
the
doesn't
eyes,
mean that you always have to get...
like those of a Skye Terrier. The man's name, it seemed, was Gogol. He was a Pole.
What's up, Snake?
In the circle
Be
of
careful,
days, he was
Snake.
called Tuesday.
Our friend Tuesday insists on raising the speed.
What is it, Snake?
Now, gentlemen,
Sit down,
our
Snake.
luncheon in top hat and frock coat. No one need know the anarchist.
You called, Snake?
Some top hat and frock
Come
coat,
on,
then goes
Snake.
down
Don't
to
call me for no
the
reason.
Well, may I attention?
I am not good at concealment. I am not ashamed of the cause.
Yes, you are, my boy, and so is the cause of you.
I am not good at deception.
Right, my boy, right. You aren't good at anything.
And I looked at the others. I began to see in each of them exactly what I had seen in the man by the river. Each man was subtly and differently wrong. Next to me sat Tuesday, the towel-headed Gogol. Next was Wednesday, a certain Marquis de Saint-Eustache. In the gloom and thickness of his beard,